Congratulations, mate. You've sort of been on the fringe of this for a little while. You've known it's been coming, doing different sorts of practice, haven't you?
Yeah, well, it's come about different ways. I've obviously been a part of the Aussie A stuff and the Chairman's 11, which was a great opportunity. So, obviously bowled a fair bit up in Sydney against South Africa. So I knew I was being considered as a spin option. So, I suppose with this test being in Sydney, I suppose that's probably a great indicator that game was taken pretty highly, and I've been hitting the ball well. So it's coming at a good time.
Did your heart skip a beat when you get the call? What happens there?
Yeah, I got the call when I was back at home. Just got home from my flight from Adelaide, and I was just with Dad. And when the phone rang, I sort of showed him who it was, and he started to panic a little bit, and I sort of went outside and took the call and came back inside, and he was pretty emotional already. So it was a good moment to share with him.
Can you let us know what he was talking about?
He just sort of said, "Congratulations, you're in the squad for Sydney, and all the coaching staff and the guys wish you the best, and good luck up there. And you're replacing Shane Watson as the all-rounder, and yeah, good luck." So I passed it on to Dad, and we had a good chat.
Glenn, once it became clear that you were a chance to start sort of moving towards the Test team, what have you been doing with your bowling to continue to bring it on?
I suppose, obviously with the BBL on, there's obviously limited bowling opportunities. You're only going to bowl maximum 4 overs per game, and as a spinner, as an off spinner anyway, it's giving me limited opportunities in that sense. So I've been working hard on my bowling outside the group, just in the nets, one-on-one with coaches, but just making sure it's up to stand for whenever it comes back to either Shield cricket, one-day cricket, or when it's going to be next required. So making sure it's at that highest level and ready to go.
Who have you been working with in particular, and who I suppose have been your mentors as a spin bowler?
Well, I suppose with the BBL, I've been lucky enough to work with Shane Warne a fair bit over the last few weeks, and he's been great, especially with the mental side of the game. Probably more closely, with Sean Flegler, who I've worked with over the last few years, growing up playing in Futures League. He's been my coach, and he's seen a lot of me develop from when I had a lot of troubles with my action, and I had to change it a fair bit through the academy days, and now where it's been at least a little bit more successful at first class level, and a lot more consistent last few years.
Chloe. As the all-rounder, it probably comes down to you and Richard Johnson. Why do you think, or what do you think might get you into the team? What do you think you can bring? You feel you're confident in doing the job?
I suppose being at Sydney, and the fact that this year it's been spinning quite a bit. The game we played up against South Africa, it actually did quite spin and break up quite a lot for the spinners. So I hope that holds me in good stead. And the Shield game we play up there as well, it's fun all through the match. So I'm hoping that holds me in good stead, and I'm hoping I can bring a lot of overs to the team, and a few wickets as well. I've batted pretty well there over the last few years as well. I've got a few 90s and a couple of 50s as well. So I feel confident that if I'm required with the bat or ball, I can perform.
And you initially came to prominence, I suppose, in the shorter forms, and you played an awful lot of 2020 cricket over the past 12 months or so. How have you kind of made sure that your first class game, particularly batting wise, is still in order?
I think it's more the mental change, straight back into first class cricket when you come. Obviously, had a lot of T20 cricket and one day cricket, as you said. Greg Shippard makes that a pretty easy transition. We sit down and talk a lot about what my role is going to be in the team, and adjusting back into that red ball format. And he's probably made a really easy transition for me to sort of fit straight back into that Victorian lineup whenever I came back in. So I suppose a lot of discussion, sort of more than training, sort of goes into preparation for transition from that 2020 into that longer format. So I felt like I've been able to make that a lot easier than some. Obviously, having a pretty similar Shield cricket compared to my one-day cricket it sort of helps a fair bit.
Just further to your batting, your first class strike rate's 75. It's fairly high. You could be described as a free-flowing batsman. And Pup said during this test that he was encouraging guys to play their shots. Have you had any discussions along those lines? Because potentially it sort of takes a bit of courage to keep playing your natural game on your test debut when, one false stroke could cost you. Are you balancing caution against your natural aggression?
Yeah, no one's really talked to me about it. It's sort of more been my natural game. It's just been the way I've been brought up. I've always played my natural game. Didn't really matter the situation. I feel like if I went against it, I'd sort of bring an indecision and something that would probably cost myself a few like iffy shots. And I feel like if I back myself, that the best outcome will come out in the end of the day. So I don't see that's going to change if I get selected in Sydney, and hopefully not for the rest of my career.
Glenn, just in terms, you said that Shane wanted to help you with the mental side of the game. What specifically were you talking about with him in terms of that?
It's a lot more about patience. I'm obviously a cricketer that wants things to happen really quickly and want the game to sort of keep moving forward. He sort of helped me to sort of slow down and just sort of take a few deep breaths and just work things over, whether it be just moving a fielder 2 steps over and then moving him 2 steps back, sort of getting in the batsman's head a little bit as well. So he talked a lot about batter manipulation, just by simple little things like that. So he's been great to work with and just sort of delve into the mind that he's the best spin bowler we've ever produced. So it's been great working with him.
So is that the big change in your bowling? Is it more mental than physical, or are we going to see more loop, or what do we see?
I think I've done a lot of work on my bowling technical over the last, especially 12 months. Working obviously closer with Sean Flegler, Ray Bright, and now Warney. I think it's now time for me just to put that all into practice. I bowled really well against South Africa. I bowled 29 overs or high 20 overs. And I felt like I was bowling really consistent areas, and I had the backing of my skipper the whole way, which was Andrew McDonald at the time, and I felt really good, and I don't see that going to change, hopefully, in Sydney.
So when you came into these sort of teams, did you perceive yourself as a batsman who could bowl a little bit, and is now the opposite true?
I suppose when I got picked in those teams, I knew my role was the number one spinner, so I went in there thinking, okay, my role is to be the spin bowler and be aggressive and take wickets, so that's a good role for me. I'm happy to take any role. Be selected in any of those teams is an honour. So I was happy to play that role, and when it came to my chance to bat, I just batted the way I normally bat. So
if you do play, just what would the baggy green mean to you walking out on the SCG? Just how would the feelings be? Is this boyhood dream sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's cliche boyhood dream. I think everyone said that every time someone gets selected. So. I try not to think about it too much. I was sort of lucky after I got the call. I went and played some golf and sort of cleared my head with my brother. So I took a couple of hours away for it and just tried not to think about it too much, because I sort of think I drove myself mad leading up to New Year's and then January the 2nd. So yeah, it's been a bit of a head spin the last 18 hours. So I think it'll probably sink in a little bit closer. But at the moment, it's just a lot of excitement, a lot of chatting to friends. I've been receiving endless messages of congratulations over the last few hours, so it's been incredible and an amazing journey, really.
Glenn, what have you learned in the few opportunities you've now had to bowl at international batsmen, and also the time you've spent around the Australian team in the limited overs formats? What have you taken out of that?
I suppose there's a lot less margin for error. The professionality of all the players that you play against and with is just a completely different standard. So I've had to lift my game from obviously going from playing for Hampshire over in England and then straight into the Australian setup. I've had to lift my game up a few levels and really just make sure I'm at least at that standard and looking like I'm at that standard as well. It's not so much just being able to play, it's actually having to look at it as well. So it's been a tough little initiation when we were up in Dubai, and I think that's probably the hardest conditions you're going to get playing wise, and I felt like I met it with the standard I'd like to meet it as well. I felt like I held my head up high after that series, and I felt confident that I was at that level.
What have you learned from your Bushrangers mates this year who've been given a similar call up?
I've learnt that Bushrangers guys are ready when they get that call up for Australia. I felt like they all met the challenge head on. They all played really well when they got that opportunity. Bobby, I thought, was unlucky. He hadn't nicked a ball in 3 years, and unfortunately nicked 2 in a test match. So he was unlucky. I thought Haystow played really well in Perth, struck the ball well, bowled with good pace and bounce. And obviously Bird, who's an adopted Victorian, obviously with the Stars, and he obviously bowled excellent in this last test match. And obviously, when they come back, they obviously share their stories of their debuts, and it's amazing to think that I could possibly go through the same thing in a week's time.
Have you learned from that, from what they've told you?
Yeah, I think they don't like to talk about it too much. I think everyone asks a lot of questions. They sort of want to sort of shy away from it because obviously we've got business to do obviously with the BBL, and that's our main or was our sole goal at that stage. So yeah, I've chatted to a few of them, and I'll probably talk a little bit closer to Bobby and Birdie when I get a chance.
What did you mean exactly before when you said, you know, it was important to kind of look the part as well as do the job? You're a pretty confident personality. Did you find, yeah, what do you actually mean by that?
Well, I suppose I have to have a haircut and shave every now and then. I turned up to the squad and Mickey Arthur goes, "Are you going to shave anytime soon?" And I said, "Oh, probably." So about 10 minutes later, I went to my room and had a shave. So yeah, it's basically just looking the part as a cricketer, tucking your shirt in when you're told, and just looking the part as a cricketer. I was a little bit sort of country boyish and coming into the side. So yeah, just looking the part as a cricketer.